What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We are getting more and more into exploration, and this is going to be a deep dive into fitting for Caldari ships. That means we're going to be looking at the Heron and the Buzzard. So most of these fits are both from personal experience and from what I see on Eve University as recommended. So just to start off, we are in the Heron, and that's the Tech 1 frigate. Low skill requirements to fly something like this, and so I'm using just the cheapest components that you can use. And as you can see right now, the estimated cost of what I've got on here right now is 900K. So as I mentioned in the Amar video, if you haven't watched that, that's fine. We'll talk about all of the same things here. You kind of want to have the cheapest outfit that you can, because I guarantee you're going to get blown up. So 900K overall isn't too bad. You can cheapen that if you want by removing some of these components, but they're pretty cheap. So as a Heron, just starting out, you're going to be using a Tech 1 core probe launcher. You're going to have 8 core scanner probes that you use per time. I recommend, and I think standard practice is to always have a full complement in your cargo hold as well as what's loaded into your launcher. So in total, you're going to need 16. You're going to want a micro warp drive. I've got a YT8, although we can remove that and put, the Tech 1 version on there. And you can see that it takes a bit more power grid. So all right. So we've got the micro warp drive. We've got your relic analyzer and your data analyzer, which you probably knew you needed. Another recommended item that I think is worth having is a cargo scanner. This Type E, they're very cheap. So if we look over here, if I'm remembering, they're like 10 or 20 to 80,000 ISK, which is nothing. So I used usually the ones that I find. I end up looting them during missions, and I just hold on to them. So I don't think I've ever really bought one. I'm sure I have, but they're common loot items, and so you may not need to buy one. You may have some lying around somewhere. And then finally, your scan range finding array. Because in the Caldari ship you actually have 5 mid slots, you can have room for a cargo scanner and a scan range finding array, or you could add another one of these scan range finding arrays. As you can tell, looking at what happens down here, like around the power and the CPU, that they have significant requirements, and you just need to be aware of them. Now, right now I prefer personally the nanofiber internal structure. Another option is the inertial stabilizers, which if you look at the nanofiber internal structures, man, that's hard to say. It reduces your inertia and it makes you go faster, but it takes a hit out of your structure hit points. In an exploration ship, odds are real good you won't have an ongoing fight with anybody. You'll just get hit once or twice and you'll die. So I feel like that's a pretty fair trade, because if you're into structure, you're dead anyway. Whereas the inertial stabilizers, they may get us to a lower align time, and 2.0 is kind of the fastest that you want to get, and that means that if you can align in 2 seconds or less, nothing really will be able to target you fast enough to get you before you've entered warp and headed out. So if I'm at 504 now, I can unfit these two and show that it'll be less than 504. I'm at 4.6. So to pick up like 0.4 seconds, I also have to give up signature radius, which in a small ship, my signature radius is pretty small. So if anything other than another frigate shows up, they're going to take a little bit longer to target me, which the longer it takes them to target me, the longer it'll take for them to attack me, unless they've got drones, which is likely, but we'll get into that. So making it faster and easier for them to target you so you can align to warp half a second faster isn't worth it to me. So personally, I go with the nanofiber internal structure, and it gives me a speed bonus as well. So this is the basic setup for a Heron. It's worth noting that you have room for drones and bandwidth for 3 light drones, and you might need those to defend yourself against pirates. Not players, because your little 3 drones aren't going to do very much to you or for you. But if it's just you and another, Tech 1 frigate and you're both in exploration ships, maybe it'll be a duel to the death. And in which case, get your drones on their drones first and then them, because they're not going to be doing any damage to you on their own. So this is the Heron, and this is the starter ship. It's kind of the best, if you think about it, because of how many mid-slots it has. It's got 5, which is the most out of the others. The Galente and the Minmatar have 4, and Amar have 3. So it allows you to have a little bit more functionality, but it's not really worth getting too excited about. Now, the Covert Ops ship, which is a sort of the Tech 2 variant and requires a lot more skills. It also requires that you be an Omega account holder to use it. So now I've got like higher tech versions, and a lot of these you can use on your Tech 1 ship, like on the Heron. So if you're an Omega account, you can get Tech 2 data analyzers and relic analyzers if you skill up to use them. Same thing with the cloaking device. Now, this brings us to the cloaking device. There are 2 basic types of cloaking devices. One is this Covert Ops cloaking device, which allows you to be invisible and unable to be scanned down, whether you're in warp or entering warp or coming out of warp. Cloaks keep you invisible, effectively. Unless something flies within 2,500 meters of you, or you fly within 2,500 meters of something or someone, then your cloak will drop and you'll be visible. So, very useful. The Tech 2 variant allows you to do it while in warp, maintain cloak while in warp, and that sort of thing. There's a prototype version that is 1.5 million ISK by itself, which could be used on the Heron, but if you're shooting for a cheap, sort of reusable, easily, scrappable ship, adding 1.5 million to your 900,000 ship just for one component may or may not make sense. It might for you. If you think your survivability is that much greater with a prototype cloak, to make up for the difference in loss that you'll incur by getting killed with one of those things equipped, then that's a call for you to make. So in the Buzzard, which is the Tech 2 or the Covert Ops ship, I've got all of the Tech 2 stuff, including some rigs. And these rigs increase your scan strength. That's kind of the de facto standard of what people use for rigs on exploration ships. But there are also rigs that you can get that increase your virus strength for archaeology sites or relics. There's also things for data sites or hacking. It's really up to you kind of how you want to emphasize. But last I checked, there aren't rigs that allow you to just blanket increase all of your virus strength, right? So you could put 2 on here for virus strength for hacking, but if you get into something where you're doing relic analysis, it's not going to help you at all, and your slots here are wasted. So scan strength is usually what people go with. There is a Tech 2 core probe launcher, but most people, if you have a lot of money, go with the Sisters of Eve Sisters core probe launcher. This unit by itself is 40 million ISK. So yes, it helps and it adds to your scan strength by 10%, which is great, which is effectively what these are doing, 10% each, with diminishing returns on the second one. But the Sisters core probe launcher for 40 million ISK, this is really, this is what makes this 72 or 73 million. You could leave your core probe launcher 1 on there and just use Sisters of Eve core scanner probes. And these also have a bunch of bonuses to kind of the regular scanner probes that you might use. So this is a more cost-effective way of increasing your scanning ability. The rigs help quite a bit. These are about 500K each, give or take. And so if you're going to have 16, that's 8 million right there. So again, these are all things that you can step up. You want the Tech 2, these 2 help quite a bit. The range finding array, you can see I don't have the power grid for this, and I've got decent skills on this character. But with a couple more, with like 1 or 2 more points of skills, you may or you probably will be able to activate this. Now, yeah, maybe not. So if you can't do it, this is why you would use a YT8 as opposed to the Tech 2 version of the micro warp drive, because it uses a lot more power. But the cloak, if I took this offline, well, no, maybe not. Yeah, well, anyway, there may be ways to finagle your power grid so that you can equip all of these things at once. Your skills probably need to be maxed out. Mine are close, I think, on this character, but that's kind of where we're at. So this is the Buzzard. This is the covert ops ship for Caldari. The Heron is the Tech 1 version and sort of the basic outfit. And you can pick and choose equipment-wise. You're not going to be able to use a covert ops cloak on a non-covert ops ship. There are a couple exceptions, but your Tech 1 frigates will not allow it, which is why you have to use the prototype cloak if you want a cloak. As an Omega character, that opens up Tech 2 components previously, and the skills to use them. Previously, that's not something that's been available for the most part. There are some exceptions, but as an alpha character, you're not going to have access to this ship or a lot of these components. So set up your ship in the way that makes you the most comfortable. Personally, I really find a lot of value in having a covert ops cloak. You know, I don't know whether it's worth the money that is lost. It's, I think, like 8 to 10. That's 5 million. All right, so 5 to 6 million. So if I took this off, the Sisters Core Probe Launcher, around 40 million is where you're looking. 35 to 40 million for a covert ops ship, cloak, and a bunch of equipment to go along with it. And that's quite a hit to take every time you die. So that's not the most disposable ship, and it may serve you better to just take the most basic exploration ship. And, you know, you lose 900k when you die, so what? You may also lose your implants, so keep that in mind. But this is kind of what exploration ship outfitting looks like. There isn't a whole lot of variation from ship to ship across the faction ships. Once you get into like some of the faction ships, like not faction ships, but faction ships, like Sisters of Eve ships, for example, then there's totally different considerations. You'll note, and I forgot to point this out in the Amar video, but you'll note that for the Tech 2 covert ops ships, there are no drones. There's no drone capability whatsoever. And so you give up whatever ability you had or might have thought you had when you go to this level of ship. That said, another component that you might consider for this empty high slot, which you find, is like a salvager. Because you may come across, as you're hopping around system to system, you may find wrecks, and, you know, what the hell. You can salvage them and make a little bit of extra money on the side. So this is Caldari. Thanks for tuning in, and thank you for the question, DG Rage Riot on YouTube, as well as, let's see, there was one other gentleman who asked questions about mining and industry, and I will be getting to those once I learn a little bit more. Victor Korea, thank you. I'll get to those videos once I get through some of these exploration ones, and we'll get into kind of finding the best way to set up mining bookmarks and locations and safe spots and things like that. So this is it for Caldari. Next few videos will be Galente and Mimitar, and that wraps us up here. So thanks for watching. Check out the Errant Gamer podcast, which is one that I host on a weekly basis with a couple friends, and I will see you in the next video.